Today we are going to learn about the legend of Betsy Ross. Before we can do that, we're going to review what we've learned so far. So, who helped the British colonies in America become independent, and what did they do to help? George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and Paul Revere. So George Washington becomes the commander-in-chief to help train the people who are going to fight. Thomas Jefferson is the one who wrote the Declaration of Independence for us. Benjamin Franklin went over to Great Britain and got some of the taxes removed, right? And then Paul Revere rode his horse in the night, letting people know that the British were coming so that they could be prepared to fight. Okay? There were also women that helped. Okay? And today's read aloud is about one of those women named, and her name was Betsy Ross. Okay? So, what significant events leading to the Revolutionary War have we learned about so far? The Boston Tea Party, Paul Revere and the shot heard around the world, and the Declaration of Independence. Those are all things that led to the Revolutionary War, right? So, today you're going to hear a legend about a woman named Betsy Ross. What's a legend? Do you remember what a legend is? A legend is a story that's told over the years that can't be proven if it's true or not, okay? So, Betsy Ross created the first flag for the new country. Because remember, we became a new country when we declared our independence from Britain. So a flag is a piece of cloth with special designs that are a symbol of a country or a state. So the United States of America, we've got a flag now that looks different than the one that Betsy Ross had first made. But now our United States flag, the flag that represents our country, has 50 stars and 13 stripes, right? And it's red and white and blue, okay? The state of North Carolina has a flag. The state of Maryland has a flag. The state of Virginia and Tennessee, all the states, they have their own flag, okay? This new flag that Betsy Ross made is important because it's a symbol of America, okay? The flag that Betsy Ross designed in the legend, you'll hear, looked similar to the one that we have now, but it's not exactly the same, okay? I want you to listen carefully to discover a legend about the flag Betsy Ross made. Betsy and John Ross were newlyweds in 1773 when they opened their seamstress shop in the busy port town of Philadelphia. You just heard that John and Betsy are newlyweds. What two words do you hear in that word? Newlywed. What do you think it means? Yeah, that they just got married. Because you hear new and you hear wed. So new, just happened. And then wed, you have to think wedding. Newlywed means just married. A seamstress is a person who sews with a needle and thread to make or repair things made of cloth. John hung outside their house at 239 Arch Street. The needle and spool of thread helped people find their shop. So, do you see in this picture, let me get my little pointer. In this picture, you see he's hanging up the sign, okay? And it's got some thread and a needle, and that's going to help people know what their shop does. Remember, we talked about Paul Revere's shop had stuff that was going to help people remember what his shop was. He was a silversmith. All right. Now, next page. At about the same time that Betsy and John were having a party to celebrate their wedding, Patriots in Boston were having their own party, the Boston Tea Party. So we've kind of backtracked a little bit. Now we're talking about at the same time that people were throwing tea overboard, Betsy and John were having a party celebrating their wedding, right? And you remember what the Boston Tea Party was. The Patriots used the sea as a giant teapot, dumping shiploads of tea into it. After that night, the colonies decided to work together to come up with a plan for answering the British demand for taxes. The meeting of representatives from all 13 colonies in the First Continental Congress was held in the Ross's hometown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Sorry, guys. My allergies are bothering me. Midway between the New England colonies and southern colonies, Pennsylvania was an important meeting place for colonists from all over. John and Betsy found it an exciting city in which to live, especially as the Patriots began to gather there. John agreed with the Patriot cause and wanted to break away from Great Britain. One night, Betsy's husband, John, died suddenly. It was a very sad and not yet 3 years since Betsy and John Ross had celebrated their wedding day. After John's death, Betsy decided to run the seamstress business on her own. Betsy Ross was an independent woman. Do you remember what independent means? That's right. She took care of herself, and she did it without being controlled by someone else. She took great pride in her work and became well known throughout the colonies for her tiny, even stitches and beautiful cloth. When men gathered in Philadelphia for meetings, they often ordered clothing from Betsy for their families at home. No order was too difficult for her. As war approached, Betsy was asked to make flags for the Pennsylvania Navy. The Continental Army, led by General George Washington, flew one of her flags as well. So, people were asking her to make flags for them because she was such a great seamstress. There is a famous legend about Betsy Ross. A legend is a story that has been told through the years and may or may not be true. According to this legend, Betsy sat in her shop sewing and enjoying the light of a warm summer evening in June 1776 when she heard a loud rapping at her door. John's uncle, George Ross, stood before her with 2 other men. One of them was the General George Washington himself. "Good evening, madam," he began. "We have an important job that needs to be done very quickly. As your husband, John, was a patriot, and you are known to be the best seamstress in the colonies, we feel that you are the right person for the job." "Do come in," Betsy replied. "I will heat the kettle for tea, and you can explain to me your business." "Thank you kindly, dear Betsy," said George Ross, entering the house. "But I am afraid we do not have time to sit down. As you may have heard, the Continental Congress is meeting here in Philadelphia for a second time. We are on our way to a meeting this very evening. Soon, quite soon, we will formally declare our independence from Britain. We must be ready with the new flag, for we will no longer want to fly the flag of the British King." Betsy stood still, listening to his words and turning to General Washington, who had taken a scrap of paper from his coat pocket. "Mrs. Ross," General Washington said, "this is your chance to show your patriotism, or your love for your country, as your late husband John did. I have drawn a rough design sketch for the new flag. Please take a look and let me know what you think. We would like for you to sew the first flag of a new nation, 13 colonies united against Great Britain." Betsy took the slip of paper from George Washington's hand. On it was a square drawing of 13 stripes and 13 stars. Betsy nodded her head, then looked up into the general's face. "Hey, why do you think that the design might have had 13 stripes and 13 stars? What's so important about that number 13? Aha! There are 13 colonies. Do you think that each of those stripes and each of those stars represent a colony? Maybe. Yes, she smiled. I accept. I will gladly make the flag. Might I offer just one suggestion, sir? George Washington liked Betsy's suggestion of a 5-pointed star instead of a 6-pointed one that he had drawn. The 3 visitors turned and left as quickly as they had come. So in this picture, you can see that those stars have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, kind of like the Star of David. Okay, Betsy recommended or suggested that the stars only have 5 points. Okay. Betsy set to work on the flag the very next day. Taking down a red bolt or roll of cloth from the shelf, she measured and cut 7 stripes of equal length and width. Then she did the same thing with a bolt of white cloth, this time cutting 6 stripes. She applied her famous even stitches along the length of each strip. First a red, then a white, until 13 stripes of alternating colors joined together to form a large rectangle. Next, Betsy measured and cut a square from a bolt of blue cloth and carefully stitched it into the upper left-hand corner of the flag. Days later, when she had completely finished, 13 white stars almost twinkled in a perfect circle against the dark blue background. When Betsy showed George Washington and his fellow representatives the finished flag, they were very pleased. They knew this flag would represent the new country well. This new flag stood as an important symbol for the men who gathered under it on the 4th of July when they voted to approve their letter of independence to King George. 1 year later, in June 1777, the Continental Congress officially adopted Betsy Ross's flag, the Stars and Stripes, as the national flag of the United States of America. Stars and Stripes is a name that is often used for the flag of our country. Why do you think that name is used? Think about what's on that flag. Yeah, the flag has stars and stripes on it. Okay? Question time. What type of work did Betsy Ross do? She was a seamstress, so somebody who sews and fixes clothing or other things that are cloth. The title of this read aloud is The Legend of Betsy Ross. What is a legend? A story that has been told and retold through the years, but may or may not be true. So we don't really have a way of proving that George Washington went to her shop and asked her for all of this, right? But it's the story that's been passed along. What is the legend of Betsy Ross? It's that she made the first official flag for the United States at George Washington's request. So because George Washington asked her, she made the first official flag of the United States. What did the first official flag of the United States look like? It had 13 alternating red and white stripes and 13 white stars on a blue background, right, in the upper left-hand corner. Why were there 13 stripes and 13 stars? For the 13 colonies. If you were able to design a flag for our class, what would your flag look like? What kind of things would you include on your flag to let everyone know that it represents your class? We made a flag for the fun run, but what if you could make your very own flag all by yourself for our class? What would you make it look like? I want you to think about that, and we'll come back to that. All right, in the read aloud, you heard, she applied her famous even stitches along the length of each strip, first a red and then a white, until 13 stripes of alternating colors joined together to form a large rectangle. I want you to say the word alternating with me. You can whisper it, you can monster voice it, you can mouse voice it, grandpa voice it, whatever. Go for it. Alternating. 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 I love to eat my mother's lasagna, which has alternating layers of cheese, noodles, and sauce. Alternating means following one after another, okay? What other things have you seen or heard of that have alternating items? Try to use the word alternating when you tell about it. What's the word we've been talking about? Alternating. Alternating means following one after another. I'm going to tell you a pattern or a sequence, and I want you to tell me if they are alternating or if they are not alternating. Okay? Heart, circle, heart, circle, heart, circle. Those are alternating. Okay. Square, circle, heart, circle, green dot. Nope, those are not alternating. How about one house? No, that's not alternating because it's only one object. All right, what about red dot, black dot, red dot, black dot, red dot, black dot? Yeah, those are alternating. All right, so remember, alternating means following one after another, over and over, okay? Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned some cool things. Keep thinking about what you're going to make your flag look like for your class. Bye.